I never thought a green light could be so dangerous. One second I was heading home after a long shift, thinking about grabbing some Taco Bell on the way. The next second, metal was crunching, glass was flying, and everything went sideways. Literally. Some guy ran a red light doing at least 50 and T-boned my truck right on the driver's side. The impact threw me around like a rag doll, even with the seatbelt on. My head slammed against something hard. Everything got blurry, then dark. When I came to, there were sirens everywhere. Paramedics were cutting through the door, asking me questions I couldn't quite process. My left arm felt wrong. My ribs screamed every time I tried to breathe. Blood was running down my face from somewhere near my hairline. One of the EMTs kept saying my name, trying to keep me conscious. They asked if there was someone they should call. I managed to whisper her number. My wife. The ride to the hospital was a blur of pain and flashing lights. They rushed me straight into emergency surgery. Apparently, I had internal bleeding, 3 broken ribs, a fractured arm, and a concussion that had them worried about brain swelling. The doctors worked on me for hours. When I finally woke up in recovery, groggy and hurting everywhere, a nurse was checking my vitals. She smiled gently and said they'd been trying to reach my emergency contact. No answer yet, but they'd keep trying. No answer yet. Those 3 words should have concerned me more than they did. But I was too out of it, too focused on the pain shooting through my chest with every breath. They moved me to a room sometime that evening. The nurse came back later, looking a bit uncomfortable. Still no response from my wife. They'd called 7 times, left voicemails, sent texts to the number I'd given them. Nothing. I asked for my phone. My hands were shaking as I unlocked it, partly from the meds, partly from something else I wasn't ready to name yet. 12 missed calls from work. 6 from my buddy Chris. 3 from my mom, who lived 2 states away. 0 from my wife. But there was a notification from Instagram. Her Instagram. I shouldn't have opened it. I really shouldn't have. But I did. There she was, posted 2 hours ago. Beach. Bikini. Cocktail in hand. Her friends around her, all laughing, all glowing in the golden afternoon sun. The caption made my blood run cold despite the painkillers. Living my best life. I stared at that screen for what felt like forever. Living her best life. While I was being cut out of a wrecked truck. While surgeons were stopping internal bleeding. While nurses were trying desperately to reach her because her husband might not make it through the night. The next story was even better. A video. Her and the girls clinking glasses, some upbeat song playing in the background. You could hear her laugh. That same laugh I used to love. Now it just sounded hollow. Empty. The timestamp showed it was posted around the same time the hospital made their 4th attempt to reach her. A different nurse came in to check on me. Older woman, kind eyes. She saw me staring at my phone and asked if I'd gotten hold of anyone. I told her my wife was busy. The look she gave me said everything. She'd seen this before. She knew exactly what kind of busy I meant. She patted my good arm gently and told me to rest. But rest didn't come easy that night. I lay there in that hospital bed, machines beeping around me, body screaming in pain, and something clicked. This wasn't new. This was just the most obvious example of a pattern I'd been ignoring for too long. The dinners where she barely looked up from her phone. The weekends she spent with friends while I worked overtime to cover the mortgage. The way she'd ask about my day, but zone out halfway through my answer. The constant requests for money, never for us, always for her. New purse, girls' trip, spa day, concert tickets. When was the last time she'd actually been there for me? Not just physically in the same house, but actually present, actually caring. I couldn't remember. And that realization hurt worse than my broken ribs. My phone buzzed. For a split second, I thought maybe she'd finally seen the hospital's messages. Maybe she was calling, panicked, worried, sorry. But it was just Chris asking if I was okay. Word had gotten around at work about the accident. He said he'd swing by tomorrow if I was up for visitors. Real concern. From a friend. More than I was getting from my own wife. I texted him back with my good hand. Told him I'd appreciate the company. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I opened up our bank statements on my phone. Even through the fog of medication, the numbers were clear. Crystal clear. In the last 6 months alone, she'd spent over $8,000 on things that had nothing to do with our household. Meanwhile, I'd been picking up extra shifts, skipping lunches, driving an older truck because we needed to save money. Or so I thought. Turns out we didn't need to save money. She needed me to save money so she could spend it. There's a difference. Another notification from her Instagram. Another story, this time a sunset shot with some quote about deserving happiness. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was out there collecting moments for social media while her husband collected stitches. A doctor came in around midnight to check on me. Young guy, looked tired. He asked how I was feeling, checked my charts, and mentioned that my recovery would take time. Weeks, maybe months before I'd be back to normal. Physical therapy for sure. He also mentioned, almost carefully, that they still hadn't been able to reach my wife. He wanted to know if there was anyone else they should contact. Someone who could help with my care when I was discharged. I gave him Chris's number, and my mom's, but not hers. Not anymore. The doctor noticed, but didn't push. He just nodded, made a note, and told me to try to get some sleep. The pain medication would help. But medication can't fix everything. Can't fix the cold reality settling over me like a blanket. Can't fix the fact that the woman I married, the woman who promised to be there in sickness and health, couldn't be bothered to answer her phone while I was fighting to stay alive. I closed Instagram. Blocked it, actually. Didn't want to see any more. Didn't need to. I'd seen enough. The machines kept beeping their steady rhythm. Outside my window, the city lights blurred together. My arm throbbed. My head pounded. But my mind was clearer than it had been in years. Living her best life. Good for her. Because when I got out of this hospital bed, I was going to start living mine. And it wasn't going to include someone who couldn't even pause her vacation long enough to make sure I was still breathing. The second day in the hospital was worse than the first. Not because of the pain, though that was still brutal. Worse because I was awake enough to really process what had happened. What was still happening? Or more accurately, what wasn't happening? Still no call. Still no text. Still no wife. Chris showed up around noon with a bag from Subway and an uncomfortable expression. He tried calling her too, after I told him what was going on. She'd answered on the first ring for him. Told him she was dealing with a family emergency and couldn't get away right now. A family emergency. That's what she called her beach vacation while her actual family was in intensive care. Chris didn't know what to say. Neither did I. So we just ate sandwiches and watched ESPN on the small TV mounted in the corner. It was the most normal I'd felt since the accident. Funny how a buddy and a cold sub could do more for you than a marriage certificate. The nurses kept asking about her. Different shifts, different faces, same question. Had my wife been contacted? Was she coming? I started telling them not to bother anymore. Made up some excuse about her being out of state. They'd nod sympathetically, but I could see it in their eyes. They knew. Hospital staff sees everything. They'd probably seen 100 versions of this story. My mom called that afternoon. She'd gotten the message from the hospital and was already looking at flights. I told her not to come, that I was fine, but she wasn't having it. Said she'd be there in 2 days. That's what family does. They show up. They care. They don't post beach selfies while you're bleeding out. Physical therapy started on day 3. Just small movements, nothing major. The therapist was this older guy who looked like he'd seen some things. He worked with me for about an hour, teaching me exercises I'd need to do once I got home. Home. The word felt strange now. That place didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a museum of a marriage that had died without me noticing. Between therapy sessions, I had a lot of time to think. Too much time, maybe. I started going through our entire relationship in my head. When did it start going wrong? Was there a specific moment, or had it been a slow fade? We'd met 6 years ago at a friend's barbecue. She was funny, energetic, always the center of attention. I liked that about her. She made me feel like I was part of something exciting. We got married after dating for 1.5 years. Too fast, probably, but I thought we were solid. The first year was good, or I remembered it being good. But looking back now, with this new clarity, I started noticing patterns I'd missed. She'd always needed reassurance. Always needed to be out, doing something, surrounded by people. And I'd always been the one making it possible. Paying for dinners I was too tired to enjoy after 12-hour shifts. Covering her credit card bills because she went over budget. Again. Always again. I'd convinced myself that's what you do in a marriage. You support each other. But support is supposed to go both ways. When was the last time she'd supported me? When was the last time she'd asked how I was doing and actually waited for the answer? My coworker Dave stopped by that evening, brought some snacks from the vending machine, and caught me up on what was happening at work. Apparently, word had spread about the accident. People were asking about me. My supervisor said to take all the time I needed. Dave also mentioned, carefully, that everyone was surprised my wife hadn't been around. Small town, I guess. People notice things. He didn't push it, just changed the subject to football and work drama. But it stuck with me. If people at my job were noticing her absence, what did that say? These were people who barely knew her. And even they found it strange. That night, lying in the dark with machines humming around me, I did the math. Really did it. Our mortgage was $1,500 a month. I paid it. Utilities, another $300. Me again. Both cars were in my name. Insurance, phone bills, groceries, everything. I was covering probably 90% of our expenses. What was she contributing? Honestly, I couldn't figure it out. She had a part-time job at a boutique. Pulled maybe $1,200 a month. Where did that money go? Not to our household. Not to our future. It went to brunches and online shopping and girls' trips and whatever else she wanted that week. And I'd let it happen. That was the part that really got me. I'd seen it happening and convinced myself it was fine. That I was being a good husband by providing. But there's providing, and then there's being used. I was starting to understand the difference. The fourth day was quiet. Fewer visitors. More time alone with my thoughts. The doctors said I was recovering well, all things considered. They'd probably discharge me in another day or two, as long as everything stayed stable. I need help at home, though. Someone to check on me. Help with daily tasks until I got my strength back. My mom was landing tomorrow. She'd stay for a couple weeks. Make sure I was settled. Chris had already volunteered to help with anything I needed. Even Dave had offered to swing by on his days off. But my wife? For days and counting. Not a single word. I checked her Instagram one more time. I know I said I wouldn't, but I couldn't help it. She'd posted again that morning. Brunch with the girls. Mimosas. Laughter. Comments from her friends about how amazing she looked. How she deserved this. How they loved her energy. One of her friends had commented, "You're glowing, girl. This trip was exactly what you needed." Yeah, I guess almost losing your husband will really clear your schedule for vacation time. I took a screenshot. Don't know why. Maybe just to remind myself later that this was real. That I wasn't imagining it or overreacting. This actually happened. She actually chose this. A nurse came in to check my vitals. Same older woman from the first night. She noticed I looked different. More resolved, maybe. She asked if I was okay, beyond the physical stuff. I told her I was figuring some things out. She nodded like she understood. Then she said something that stuck with me. Sometimes the worst moments show us the truth we've been avoiding. She was right. This accident, this nightmare, it had ripped away all the excuses I'd been making. All the justifications. All the times I'd told myself things were fine when they clearly weren't. I wasn't avoiding the truth anymore. I was staring right at it. And the truth was simple. I deserved better. Better than someone who valued Instagram likes over her husband's life. Better than someone who saw me as a wallet with a pulse. Better than someone who could enjoy bottomless mimosas while I was fighting through physical therapy with broken ribs. My phone buzzed. For a second, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe she'd finally realized. Finally cared. But it was just my mom, letting me know she'd landed and was grabbing a rental car. She'd be at the hospital within the hour. I texted back, "Thanks, Mom. I love you." She replied instantly, "Love you too, sweetheart. See you soon." That's what love looks like. Showing up, being present, giving a damn. I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling tiles. For days ago, I thought I knew what my life was, what my marriage was. Now I knew better. And knowing better meant I couldn't go back. Couldn't pretend. Couldn't keep living in a one-sided relationship that only worked because I was carrying the entire weight. When I got out of this hospital, things were going to change. I was done being the backup plan. Done being the ATM. Done being invisible in my own marriage. She was living her best life? Good. Because I was about to start living mine. And she wasn't going to be part of it. My mom arrived late afternoon on day 4. She took one look at me, bruised and bandaged, and started crying. Not loud. Just quiet tears while she hugged me as carefully as she could. That's when it really hit me how bad I must have looked. Broken arm and a cast, bandages wrapped around my ribs, stitches across my forehead, yellow and purple bruises covering half my face. She didn't ask about my wife right away, just focused on making sure I was comfortable, talking to the doctors, getting the full update on my condition. But eventually, after the nurses left and it was just us, she asked where her daughter-in-law was. I told her the truth. All of it. The unanswered calls. The beach pictures. The complete silence for 4 straight days. My mom's face went from concerned to furious in about 3 seconds. She's not usually an angry person, but when she is, you know it. She started pacing the small room, muttering things I won't repeat here. Then she stopped, looked at me directly, and said something I'll never forget. "You know what you need to do." I did. I'd known since day two, if I was being honest. But hearing her say it made it real. Made it something I couldn't ignore or rationalize away. The doctors cleared me for discharge the next morning. I need to take it easy, come back for follow-up appointments, do physical therapy twice a week. But I was stable enough to leave. My mom helped me get dressed, which was harder than it should have been with one arm in a cast and ribs that screamed every time I moved wrong. We were about to head out when I checked my phone one more time. And there they were. 52 missed calls. All from her. All from the last 3 hours. Plus 7 voicemails I hadn't listened to. And one text message that made everything perfectly clear. "The mortgage is due. We need to talk now." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I'm so sorry." Not even, "I heard about the accident." Just, "Mortgage is due." Money. That's what finally got her attention. Not her husband nearly dying. Not 4 days of radio silence from the hospital. Just the fact that a bill needed to be paid and her ATM wasn't responding. I showed my mom the text. She read it twice, her jaw getting tighter each time. Then she looked at me and said, "Don't you dare answer that." I wasn't planning to. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled to a different name. My attorney. Guy I'd used when buying the house. Solid, straightforward, didn't mess around. I stepped into the hallway for privacy and made the call. He answered on the second ring. I kept it simple. Told him I needed to start divorce proceedings. Immediately, he asked a few basic questions, told me to come by his office once I was feeling up to it, and said he'd start the paperwork. The whole conversation took maybe 5 minutes. 5 minutes to begin dismantling a 6-year marriage. Felt surreal, but also right. Like I'd been holding my breath for years and could finally exhale. Next call was to the bank. That one took longer. I explained the situation to the account manager, a woman who'd helped us set up our joint accounts years ago. She was sympathetic but professional. Walked me through the process of separating our finances. Turns out, since I was the primary account holder and main income source, I had more control than I realized. We set up a new checking account, just in my name. Transferred my direct deposit. Changed the accounts linked to the mortgage and utilities. She'd send her official notification that the joint account was being dissolved. Standard 30-day process. Meanwhile, I made sure there was just enough left in the joint account to cover this month's mortgage. Nothing more. She wanted to talk about the mortgage? Fine. She could talk to herself about it. My phone was buzzing nonstop now. More calls from her. More voicemails I wasn't listening to. A few texts that got progressively more frantic. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering? This is important. We need to talk about the house payment." Still not a single mention of the accident. Not one, "I'm glad you're alive." Just panic about money. I blocked her number. Didn't hesitate. Just did it. The sudden silence was honestly peaceful. My mom drove me to the house to grab some things. I wasn't planning to stay there. Not with her still having access. Not until things were legally settled. We pulled into the driveway, and I sat there for a minute, looking at a place I'd called home for 5 years. It didn't feel like home anymore. Just felt like a building I'd been paying for. We went inside. Everything was exactly how I'd left it before the accident. Except Messier. Dishes in the sink. Mail piled on the counter. Her stuff scattered everywhere. She clearly hadn't been home much. Probably left straight from here to her beach trip, not bothering to think about what she'd left behind. Or who. I grabbed clothes, important documents, my laptop, some personal items. My mom helped me pack 2 large bags. I took my time, made sure I got everything I'd need. Also took pictures of everything. The state of the house. The mess. The receipts scattered on the kitchen table from her shopping sprees. My attorney would want documentation. Found something interesting in her home office. Credit card statements she'd hidden in a drawer. Statements for a card I didn't even know she had. $23,000 in debt. Designer purses, expensive dinners, online shopping, subscription services I'd never heard of. All while telling me we needed to budget better. All while I was working overtime to keep us afloat. I photographed every page. This was evidence of financial infidelity, according to my attorney. Would definitely matter in the divorce proceedings. My phone buzzed again. Different number this time. One of her friends. I answered, mostly out of curiosity. "Hey, is this about my wife?" "Yeah, she's freaking out. Said she can't reach you and she needs to talk about something urgent. Can you just call her back?" "No." Silence on the other end. Then, seriously, she's really stressed. I was in a car accident 5 days ago. Nearly died. She was too busy posting beach pictures to answer when the hospital tried to reach her. 52 times she's called me today. 0 times she called while I was in intensive care. So no, I won't be calling her back. But thanks for checking. I hung up. Probably could have been more polite. Didn't particularly care. We loaded everything into my mom's rental car. Before we left, I did one more thing. Changed the Wi-Fi password. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. She wanted to treat me like I didn't matter? Fine. She could figure out her own internet access. My mom had booked a hotel room near the hospital for her stay. We headed there, got me settled. She ordered pizza because neither of us felt like going out. We ate in silence for a while, some cooking show playing on the TV. You doing okay? She asked finally. Honestly, yeah, I feel better than I have in years. She smiled. Sad but understanding. Good. You deserve better than this. I know. Took me a while to figure that out, but I know now. My block number showed attempted calls throughout the evening. She was persistent. I'd give her that. But persistence doesn't mean much when it only shows up over money issues. Where was this energy when I was fighting for my life? Around 9, there was a knock on the hotel door. I looked at my mom. We weren't expecting anyone. She checked the peephole, and her expression told me everything. It was my wife. Don't open it, I said immediately. But she was already shouting through the door. I know you're in there. We need to talk. You can't just ignore me. My mom looked at me for guidance. I shook my head. Not tonight. Not on her terms. Not anymore. The police will remove you if you don't leave, my mom said through the door. Firm, no nonsense. This is harassment. More shouting. Something about how I was being ridiculous, how we were married and needed to communicate, how she deserved answers. I pulled out my phone and texted my attorney, even though it was late. She's at my hotel, harassing me. What should I do? He responded within minutes. Document everything. Record if possible. Do not engage. File for restraining order if it continues. I started recording video on my phone. Got her shouting through the door on camera. Her demands, her threats, her complete lack of self-awareness about why I might not want to see her. Eventually, hotel security showed up. Guess other guests had complained about the noise. They escorted her off the property. She was still yelling as they walked her to the parking lot. Something about her rights, about the house, about money she was owed. The security guard apologized to us afterward. Said if she came back, they'd call the police. My mom thanked him. I just felt tired. Exhausted, really. Not from the physical pain, though that was still there. Just tired of the drama. The manipulation. The complete inability of this woman to understand what she'd done wrong. We went back inside. My mom locked the door, put the security latch on for good measure. You made the right choice, she said. I nodded. I knew I had. This wasn't about anger or revenge. It was about self-respect. About finally valuing myself enough to walk away from someone who clearly didn't value me at all. 52 calls about money. 0 calls about my life. That told me everything I needed to know. And now she could live with the consequences of her choices. Just like I was learning to live with mine. The difference was, my choices were leading somewhere better. Hers were just leading to an empty house and a locked door. 2 days later, my attorney called. She'd been served. Divorce papers delivered right to her friend's place, where she'd been staying since I wouldn't let her back in the house. He said she'd contacted his office 3 times already, alternating between crying and threatening. Standard emotional manipulation playbook. I had a follow-up appointment at the hospital that afternoon. My mom drove me. We were walking out when I saw her. She'd been waiting in the lobby. Probably figured out my appointment schedule somehow. She looked rough. Hair messy, no makeup, eyes red from crying. Part of me almost felt bad. Almost. Then I remembered the beach photos, and that feeling disappeared real quick. We need to talk, she said, walking straight up to me. No, we don't. Talk to my attorney. You're being unreasonable. I deserve an explanation. The irony was incredible. She deserved an explanation. I almost laughed. You want an explanation? Fine. I almost died 5 days ago. You were too busy living your best life to care. That's the explanation. I didn't know. Nobody told me. The hospital called you 17 times. You ignored every single one. But you answered when your friend called about brunch plans the same day. So yeah, you knew. You just didn't care. People in the lobby were starting to stare. My mom tried to guide me toward the exit, but my wife blocked the way. That's not fair. I was dealing with stuff too. What stuff? Picking which filter looked best on your sunset photos. Her face flushed. You don't understand what I've been going through. You're right. I don't. Because you never bothered to tell me. Just like you never bothered to ask what I was going through. You know what the first message you sent me was? After 4 days of silence. The mortgage is due. Not are you alive. Not I'm sorry. Just money. That's all I am to you. A paycheck. That's not true. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots I'd taken. Her credit card statements. The secret debt. The Instagram posts timestamped during my surgery. $23,000. Hidden from me. While I was working doubles to cover bills you said we couldn't afford. Where'd that money go? Because it sure didn't go to our life together. She went pale. Hadn't expected me to find those statements. I was going to tell you. When? After you maxed out another card? Or maybe after I paid off this one without knowing it existed. You're making this into something it's not. No, I'm finally seeing it for what it is. And what it's been for a long time. She tried a different approach. Softened her voice. Reached for my good arm. We can fix this. Couples therapy. We can work through it. I stepped back. There's nothing to fix. You showed me exactly who you are. I'm just finally paying attention. Please, don't do this. I love you. You love what I provide. There's a difference. My mom had enough. We're leaving. Don't contact him again. My wife's expression changed. The fake vulnerability dropped. Now came the anger. You can't kick me out of my own house. It's not your house. Your name isn't on the mortgage. Never was. You insisted we keep finances separate, remember? Your idea. And now you're dealing with the consequences. That's illegal. I have rights. Talk to your attorney about it. I'm done talking to you. We walked past her. She shouted after us, making threats about taking me for everything, about how I'd regret this. Empty words from someone who'd just realized she'd lost her meal ticket. In the car, my mom exhaled slowly. That woman has some nerve. She always did. I just made excuses for it. My phone buzzed. Text from my attorney. Apparently, she'd already called him again. He'd told her to get her own legal representation. She'd threatened to drag this out, make it expensive, make me suffer. I texted back, let her try. I've got documentation of everything. He replied, that's what I like to hear. See you tomorrow to go over details. I looked out the window as we drove. Felt lighter somehow. Like I'd been carrying weight I didn't even realize was there until I finally put it down. The confrontation hadn't been fun, but it was necessary. And now it was over. She'd shown up looking for sympathy, expecting me to cave like I always did. But I wasn't that person anymore. The accident had changed something fundamental. Made me realize life's too short to waste on people who only care when money's involved. My mom reached over and squeezed my hand. Proud of you. Thanks, Mom. What's next? Healing. Moving forward. Actually living instead of just existing. Sounds like a good plan. It was. Best plan I'd had in years. The divorce moved faster than I expected. My attorney was good. Really good. He'd seen cases like mine before and knew exactly how to handle them. The financial records I'd gathered made everything straightforward. She'd contributed almost nothing to our household while racking up massive debt. That matters in court. She hired an attorney who tried to claim she deserved half of everything, including the house. My attorney shut that down immediately. The house was purchased before marriage with my down payment. My name on the deed. My credit on the mortgage. She'd wanted it that way originally, said it helped her maintain independence. Funny how independence suddenly didn't matter when there was equity involved. Her attorney pushed for alimony. Said she'd become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. My attorney countered with her secret credit cards and beach vacation during my hospitalization. Also pointed out she was perfectly capable of working full-time, but chose not to. The judge wasn't impressed with her argument. I stayed with my mom for 3 weeks while everything processed. She flew back home eventually, but Chris let me crash at his place after that. Said his spare room was mine as long as I needed it. Good guy. Better friend than I deserved. Physical therapy was progressing well. My arm was healing. Ribs still hurt, but getting better. The doctors were pleased with my recovery. Emotionally, I was doing even better. Felt like I could breathe again. My wife tried contacting me through mutual friends. They'd call or text saying she wanted to talk, wanted to explain, wanted another chance. I told each of them the same thing. Direct her to my attorney. After the third or fourth person, they stopped trying. Word got around about what really happened. About the ignored calls and Instagram posts. People started distancing themselves from her pretty quick. She posted something on social media about going through a difficult time and needing support. The comments were interesting. Some people offered sympathy, but others, people who actually knew the situation, called her out. One of her own friends commented asking why she was playing victim when she'd ignored her husband's emergency. That post got deleted within an hour. The final hearing was scheduled for 8 weeks after I filed. My attorney said it would probably be routine. She had no real grounds to contest anything. Her attorney knew it too. They tried to negotiate, wanted me to give her something just to make it easier. I refused. She'd taken enough already. Day of the hearing, I showed up early. Suit and tie, clean-shaved, looked presentable despite the fading bruises. She showed up 10 minutes late looking desperate. Her attorney seemed frustrated, probably because she hadn't followed his advice. The judge reviewed everything: financial records, hospital documentation, witness statements from people who'd seen her behavior. It took maybe 20 minutes total. Judge granted the divorce, no alimony, no shared assets. She got to keep her car and personal belongings. I kept the house, my truck, and my retirement accounts. Clean split based on actual contributions. She tried to argue. The judge cut her off, said the evidence was clear and the decision was final. Watching her face as reality sank in was something I'll never forget. This was really happening. She'd really lost everything she'd taken for granted. Outside the courthouse, she tried one more time. This isn't fair. I gave you 6 years. You gave me nothing. You took for 6 years. There's a difference. I hope you're happy. I will be. Eventually. Once I stop paying for your mistakes. Her attorney pulled her away before she could respond. Smart move on his part. Chris picked me up. We grabbed lunch at a diner near his place. He raised his coffee cup. To freedom. I clinked my cup against his. To knowing what I deserve. Which is better than what I had. That's for sure. My phone buzzed. Text from my attorney. Everything was filed. Officially divorced. I stared at that message for a minute. 6 years gone. Just like that. Part of me felt sad. Not about losing her, but about the time wasted. The chances I'd missed to actually be happy because I'd been too busy settling for less. But mostly I felt relieved. Free. Ready to actually start living instead of just surviving someone else's chaos. Chris asked what I wanted to do now. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Move back into my house. Fix it up the way I want. Focus on work. Maybe pick up that guitar I bought 3 years ago and never learned. Just live my life for me. Sounds perfect. It did. Simple, straightforward mine. No drama. No manipulation. No wondering if I mattered to the person I was supposed to matter most to. Just me. Figuring out who I was without someone draining the life out of me. And honestly, I couldn't wait to find out. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I was back in my house. My house. Not ours. Mine. First thing I did was change every lock. Then I repainted the living room. Got rid of furniture that reminded me of her. Donated most of it. Bought a new couch that I actually liked instead of something she'd picked out because it matched her aesthetic. Work gave me that promotion I'd been chasing. More responsibility, better pay, actual appreciation for what I brought to the table. Funny how everything started falling into place once I stopped carrying dead weight. Physical therapy wrapped up. My arm was back to normal. Ribs healed completely. Even the scar on my forehead faded to barely noticeable. Doctor said I got lucky. Could have been so much worse. I knew he was right. Not just about the accident, but about everything. That crash could have killed me. Instead, it saved my life. I started going to the gym with Chris. Nothing crazy, just staying active. Felt good to focus on myself for once. Picked up that guitar too. Wasn't great at it yet, but I was learning. That was enough. My mom visited for Thanksgiving. She loved what I'd done with the place. Said it finally looked like me. She was right. Everything about it felt authentic now. No pretending. No performing. Just existing comfortably in my own space. Then one afternoon, I ran into one of my ex-wife's friends at Target. She looked uncomfortable, like she wanted to avoid me. But I just nodded, kept shopping. She stopped me anyway. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. About everything. We didn't know how bad things really were. It's fine. Not your fault. She's been struggling. Lost her job at the boutique. Had to move back with her parents. The debt collectors have been calling. I waited for the guilt to hit. For some feeling of responsibility or sympathy. Nothing came. That's unfortunate. She seemed surprised by my tone. Expected me to care more, probably. She keeps talking about you. Says she made a mistake. She made several. And now she's dealing with the consequences. That's life. You're really done, aren't you? Completely. She nodded slowly, understanding finally clicking. Good for you, honestly. You seem happier. I am. And I was. Genuinely, deeply happy in a way I hadn't been in years. The kind of happy that comes from knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. Week before Christmas, someone knocked on my door. I checked the camera I'd installed and saw her standing there. My ex-wife. She looked different. Older somehow. Tired. I didn't open the door. Just spoke through the camera's intercom. What do you want? Can we talk? Please. No. I need help. I'm in trouble. The debt, the bills, I can't handle it alone. Should have thought about that before. This isn't my problem anymore. Please. I know I messed up. I know I was wrong. But I need you. You need my money. Different thing. And you're not getting either. Move on. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sure you are. Sorry you lost your security. Sorry you have to face reality now. But you're not sorry about what you did. If the accident never happened, you'd still be living the same way. Silence. She knew I was right. Don't come back here. We're done. We've been done. Accept it. I ended the call. Watched through the camera as she stood there for another minute before finally leaving. Felt nothing watching her go. No anger. No sadness. Just relief that I'd stood my ground. That night, I made dinner for myself. Nothing fancy, just chicken and vegetables. Sat down, ate slowly, watched whatever I wanted on TV. Simple. Peaceful. Mine. My phone buzzed. Text from Chris asking if I wanted to catch the game tomorrow at his place. I said yes. Then a text from my mom checking in. I told her I was doing great. Sent her a picture of the dinner I'd made. She replied with a heart emoji and so proud of you. I looked around my living room. At the guitar in the corner. At the space I created. At the life I was building. It wasn't perfect. Still had challenges. Still had hard days. But it was honest. It was real. It was mine. The accident should have destroyed me. Instead, it woke me up. Showed me I'd been settling for a relationship that was slowly killing me in different ways. Sometimes the worst moments really do lead to the best changes. I wasn't angry anymore. Wasn't bitter. Just grateful. Grateful for the clarity. Grateful for the second chance. Grateful I'd finally chosen myself. She made her choices. I made mine. The difference was, I could live with mine. Sleep well with them. Build a future on them. And that future looked pretty damn good.